just a good-looking pan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a plan. Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good. Where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck, you may be Donald Duck. Hooray for Hollywood.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast, Damn You Hollywood. And here's your host. What is he? He's an angry mob. Look at this corn. It's corn on the cob. Look at that guy. His name is Rob Burt Winfree. And now here's your host, Robert Winfree. Yay! The best part of video for me right at this point is seeing the look of aneurysm and internal conniption you're having when I do stuff like that.
You can see the skin you can see the skin split and peel back away from my face, revealing just an angry skull.
Yeah, this is honestly, it's the only reason I continue to do video at this point, and
Okay.
and that Garmer makes me.
So, I have to confirm. That's from some crappy My Little Pony song, right?
It sure is, Binky.
All right. Well, as
goodness.
was mentioned there by Mark, I'm Robert. This is Damn You Hollywood. Tonight we are reviewing Halloween Kills, the best commercial for mob violence and street justice that I've seen since Beauty and the Beast.
Rah, rah, we're an angry mob.
So this is the follow-up to the 2016 or 18?
18.
Yeah, the 2018 film Halloween that we covered here on this program. If you're interested in our thoughts on that particular film, feel free to go into the archives. Mark and I talk about it. It's a good time. Joining us on this particular episode, we have a couple of guests. First up, we had a long discussion at his prompting and suggestion about Midnight Mass not that long ago. He is our resident starving artist, Benjamin J. Cologne. How you doing, Ben?
I'm not as starving as I was about 20 minutes ago.
That's a good
Just
place to
had
be. And stepping in as well from the, what is it, second and short? He talks about fantasy football. Jason Teasley.
Yes, I talk about fantasy football. That is a great description for me as you can get, Robert.
He just got back from vacation, and he's choosing to spend that time with us.
Well, I did
All
see
right.
Mark on vacation.
That's true. We all had dinner together. It was a lovely time. So, real quick, Ben, you hopped into an open spot on this podcast, and I know you spent the years in and out of the Radulich Broadcasting Network talking about horror. Talked a little bit about that on the Midnight Mass podcast. Specifically, what's your relationship to the Halloween franchise in 50 words or less?
Yeah, I think I jumped in bad sequel first at some point when I was a kid into this franchise, and I luckily, all things considered, that's not a bad place to start because then you can move backwards to where it got progressively better and you get back to the original one and the original, Halloween, which I have visual aids with me because it's late and my imagination's on the blink. But yeah, I love Carpenter's original Halloween. I came prepared tonight for the occasion.
This is a nice shirt. Where'd you get that?
Alamo Draft House.
Let's see if I can find one of those.
It's very nice. I actually also wore it to the when I saw it in the theater at Alamo on Friday. It was a good time. My food came too late. I had to rush into eating it. Total tangent. Anyway, I'm a big fan of John Carpenter in general. I always like to say John Carpenter made some kind of deal with the devil for the murderer's row of movies he had between 76 and around 1989 that started somewhere around Assault on Precinct 13 and ended somewhere around They Live and everything. Maybe not everything, but almost everything in between. And Halloween kind of got the ball rolling with that, as far as him, having a lot of mainstream power to do that. It's
the do for that is everything after They Live.
yeah, it is. Isn't
I
it?
have seen The Ghosts of Mars.
Yeah, I've heard something. I don't remember if I saw that. If I haven't, I got to see it. If not, if I've seen it, I got to rewatch it.
Is the first one your most favorite Halloween, or is there another one that you like especially more?
Objective. Well, I mean, we're all gonna say like the original one's the objectively the better one. I was surprised by how much I really, really loved and have come to spend the last 3 years defending Halloween 2018.
Okay.
Which I think I've mentioned to you guys. Like I thought that movie was better than it had any earthly right to be, for a lot of very specific reasons that I'm sure we're going to get into in a little while.
Robert, what do you remember? When we as sort of a jumping off point into this new one, what do you remember about our review of Halloween 2018? I think we were pretty kind to it. I don't remember hating it that much.
We were mostly positive. I mean,
mm-hmm.
There's a minor pacing issue, and some of the kills are decidedly uninventive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of the creepiest moments in that movie they gave away in the trailer, which is always unfortunate. But when he stalks the guy in the bathroom stall, and then you see him like hold up his hand and drop it, and a bunch of bloody teeth just fall to the ground. Like it's a great sequence.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the lack of inventiveness as far as that goes might have been kind of the extent of it. But Jamie Lee Curtis was awesome. Will Patton's pretty awesome. We were positive on the whole, I think. Certainly trending that way. I mean, not effusive, but.
Mm-hmm. So, Jason, for you, and then we can just jump into the plot synopsis here. Where does the Halloween franchise rank for you in terms of like your favorite horror franchises? Like, if you could just narrow down to your 3 desert island horror franchises, where does Halloween rank?
Definitely. Definitely in my top 3. Halloween is a franchise that is unique because it goes all over the damn place quickly. And but it always comes back to the original. Even so much we got the shitty Rob Zombie remakes and reimagining that.
Be nice to those movies. They're not that bad.
Unfortunately.
I'm not saying
wait till me and Mark have to review them here. I think it's next year.
Hey, if you don't want to fall on that grenade, I'll talk those movies.
I like talking them because I like butchering them. There's some good parts about them, but not overall. They're not great. But I mean, there is some positives. Actually, I started the Halloween series from the beginning. Here recently, started yesterday, and I got up through. I'm on the 4th installment of the regular lineage. I mean, It's not bad. It's something I can pop in and just watch in the background while I'm working, and it's enjoyable. Definitely the original is something I watch every Halloween, and the 2018 one has become a staple since its release. It's kind of a complimentary piece that we're watching every year since its release.
All right, Robert, jump into that hot plot synopsis there for us.
Well, I'll see what I can do about heat. So, we initially pick up with Allison's boyfriend, Cameron, as he is wandering looking for a ride home after his big blow up with Allison that happened in the 2018 movie. He stumbles across his dead friend, and then Will Patton, the wounded Deputy Hawkins, who survived his stab in the neck that Michael Myers' new doctor gave him before sicking him on Laurie. And that's essentially the conclusion to the 2018 film. But Hawkins survived. Cameron, after screaming for help along a lonely road for about 3 minutes before remembering he was on a cell phone, literally when we were introduced to him in this film and using it. We get a bit of a flashback then to the original Halloween and so the original Halloween, we pick up essentially right after the original Halloween would have ended. And we see a young Deputy Hawkins as he and some of the others are chasing Michael Myers through the streets of Haddonfield. They go to his house. There's some scares. His commanding officer, I think he calls him a lieutenant at one point, is assaulted. Myers is strangling him, and poor young Hawkins, who's probably never discharged his firearm at anything other than a target at this point in his career, shoots his friend through the neck trying to shoot Michael Myers. Myers then kind of drops the dying body, heads out. He is arrested. He's detained out front of his house. We get a few other flashbacks from this character sprinkled in. I'll just do everything here. Myers is arrested by a bunch of police officers. Dr. Loomis is there, and Dr. Loomis goes to save everyone a bunch of problems and just shoot the guy in the head. But Hawkins, being a fine, upstanding young man who just shot his friend and decides, no, I don't want any more violence done today, stops him from summarily executing the deranged mental patient who just stabbed several people to death. And he is carted off to the asylum, and then, again, in 2018 is where we next pick up with him. So Hawkins feels a degree of guilt over this whole thing because he probably could have stopped it from happening if he allowed extrajudicial violence to take place. Back in the contemporary timeline, we go to a bar where we see a few of the survivors of the original Halloween celebrating themselves and toasting Laurie Strode, who is in the hospital now after having been stabbed by Michael Myers in the last movie. She is okay. They're able to rush her into emergency surgery, save her life. Apparently, he managed to stab her without hitting any vital organs, despite that knife going in to the hilt. But so she's okay. Around this time, the news of Michael having escaped starts breaking, and the town of Haddonfield decides that they've had enough. So they have seen the beast in the magic mirror, and they have to sing a song about it now, and then march off to the castle. We get a slow kind of building mob throughout the course of this movie, led primarily by Michael C. Hall as the character of Tommy, who was the boy that Laurie was babysitting in the original Halloween. So they start assembling, they assemble a mob. They start perusing the streets, looking for him. They don't find him. Myers goes on a bit of a killing spree, per usual. There's some wonderfully inventive kills. There's a bit of a debate about what Michael Myers is going to do, with Laurie's daughter, Karen, believing that he's going to come to the hospital to kill Laurie. Other people who have been tracking his progression of kills on a map go, oh, he's going back to his house. So we all wind up there for something of a final confrontation. There's not a lot of plot here, so just bear with me as we go rather quickly through this. So a few of them show up at the old Myers place, which is currently inhabited by a lovely couple of men who Michael Myers violently murders. And I'm a little bit bitter that the one they didn't let me watch him kill was Michael McDonald, because I hate that guy. I had flashbacks to Rampage when they went through the effort of putting Uriah Faber as one of Joe Manganiello's teammates. Then they all get killed by the wolf, but I don't get to see Uriah Faber die on screen. Why would you do this to me? Let me watch the little bastard die. Same thing here. McDonald is one of the most naturally unlikable actors, and I mean that as a compliment, that exists. So I don't get to watch him violently murdered, and I'm sad. So a few of them show up there. This goes badly for pretty much everyone. Michael kills Cameron and Cameron's father. Allison gets thrown down a flight of stairs, badly injures her leg. But Michael is then lured away from Allison by Karen, who steals his mask and lures him around into a trap where a bunch of the other vigilantes jump on him, beat him. He is stabbed repeatedly. But as someone goes to put a bullet in his head, the power of the shape kicks in, and he revives himself, murders like the 20 people who are there kicking the crap out of him, goes back into his house and then stabs Karen to death, while Jamie Lee Curtis and Will Patton lament that if only we'd known then what we know now. Now, there's some contextual things. There's a whole subplot about the people of Haddonfield becoming more and more mob-like, and they actually drive one of the other escaped mental patients. The crash that released Michael Myers in the previous movie set free a couple of other escaped mental patients, and they think one of them's Myers, even though he isn't. And he is driven to commit suicide by jumping off of out of the hospital window by the angry mob. So there's that kind of subplot, and then we're just basically left with the big sequel bait. We already know there's a sequel. It's going to be called Halloween Ends, and it's coming out in a couple of years.
Next year.
Yeah, next year in 2022. So very much and very obviously a middle movie of a trilogy, and that has positives and negatives. So,
all right, Jason, I know you have things to say and places to be, so hit it. Bibla.
This movie definitely was basically a filler movie for me. It wasn't good. The ending was absolute shit, in my opinion. It had a good build till then, but then when he hawks up and just basically waves his finger and then starts and it hurts inside. It all comes crashing down and hurts inside, and then he just like starts annihilating people just without anything. Which I don't know if it's been established in the lore anywhere. I don't remember it right off. Is somebody asked me when they was watching it, namely my wife. They said, how can he take all these beatings and stuff and not feel pain? And it poses the question: can he experience pain? Because there are people out there that is psychologically cannot experience pain. And that's somebody brought it up. That's why he basically can hawk up and, take 4 chair shots to the head and, keep going without no repercussions. But the story to this was definitely something. The whole angry mob thing did not work because, in the end, Michael is just a man. He's not superhuman. He's not a mutant. He's not Colossus or the Juggernaut.
That depends entirely on which timeline and how far down you go.
Yeah, well,
I believe he's confirmed.
You got the curse of Michael Myers.
You have his entire thing is the shape in 5, I think it is, when they go on with that.
Yeah, those are not continuity in what we're talking about now.
Are they?
Yeah, I was just waiting. I was waiting for the Thorn tattoo to show up somewhere, and
have you not seen the 500 graphics that people have done when they're not doing Marvel movie timelines? They're also doing Halloween timelines, and the arrow goes Halloween 2, what? Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends. The of Michael Myers trilogy, as it's called, is not currently in continuity.
Yeah,
but look, fans can speculate all they want.
Placeholder movie. Now, the only thing that the one thing that really got me, and I love the homage they did, Season of the Witch reference that they made right in the middle with the mask. I was waiting for a Silver Shamrock commercial to play in the background somewhere. If that would have happened, it would have been the greatest thing ever. But
yeah, it would have.
This movie was not scary. It did not build any kind of dread or doom or any suspense whatsoever. And it was blah. I mean, this is probably one of my worst Halloween movies that I've watched, and that's saying a lot. I've watched the entire timeline, and this ranks pretty low.
This was worse than Resurrection, in your opinion?
Let's not go nuts.
Well, Buster. Yeah, I said it ranked pretty low. I didn't say it was
In the
absolute
basement.
dog shit. With Buster Rhymes, Kung Fu Buster Rhymes. That we do not
Who's interrupting
acknowledge
my
that.
watch?
Okay.
Who's interrupting my watch, Chun-Li? Sorry. For more on that, check out our Resurrection review.
Yeah, Buster Rhymes versus Michael Myers. That's something that I'd like to forget. But thanks for bringing it back up into my memory.
Sorry, I'll shut up.
Okay, but it wasn't good. It was very it's low on the totem pole of the Halloween movies.
Okay. All right, Ben, what did you think of it?
Okay. I think I liked it a little bit. I think I liked it a little bit more than Jason did. But yeah, it's flawed as hell. My issues with this movie, first of all, I think I had set the bar a little bit higher than was probably a good idea to set after Halloween 2018 came out. It surprised me so much that I was really hoping, it was gonna kind of continue on that path, because I think Halloween 2018 avoided a lot of the unfortunate things that this movie kind of fell into. This movie was more jump scary than the previous one. That got old almost immediately.
Older than the Cypress Hill reference.
Yeah.
The other thing was, and the thing that I always liked about Halloween and Michael Myers in particular, when this was used correctly, was Michael Myers as a character kind of distinguished himself from, a lot of other slasher movie villains in the way that he kind of inhabited the world that he was in. He did a lot of, the best parts of the best Michael Myers scenes in the original Halloween. And I know Halloween 2 is not strictly, got knocked out of continuity by this new trilogy, but even in that movie, he got by a lot by, killing mostly by stealth and mostly by kind of cunning and, occasionally being clever and occasionally doing goofy shit like dressing up like a ghost or drowning a woman in a boiling hot, immersion tub in Halloween 2, stuff like that. And the thing is, Michael Myers is at his best when you can rationalize, if you think hard enough, you can rationalize a logical explanation for why he's able to absorb the punishment that he absorbs. But there's always the slight glimmer of a possibility of, well, maybe he is, immortal, and maybe he is just pure evil and he just can't die. He's at his best when you kind of can, when you can rationalize all the things, in the first Halloween movie, he gets shot 5 times in the chest and he still, gets up and runs away. in all other so there's a precedent for that right at the beginning. I don't know how far this fan theory progressed. I don't know if it's reached being made official. There was a fan theory that justified that whole thing where supposedly in the original movie, Michael Myers was able to survive that because he, when nobody was looking, he stole a bulletproof vest out of one of the cop cars that was parked outside the house and had it on the whole time.
I'll buy it.
But he knows how to drive.
Yeah, the thing is, Michael Myers is not. He's when he's at his best, he's actually kind of clever, and I was hoping to see some of that. And when he survived, the way he survived, I was really hoping that he wouldn't end up surviving the first movie, the fire in the first movie, just because. I was actually. I took it as a good sign that he actually had the presence of mind in the second movie to hide in the gun safe. that was clever. So I thought that the movie was going more in that direction, and I was like, okay, this is good. This is the kind of Michael Myers that I like, who actually is not this completely mindless zombie. And the trap that all of the Halloween sequels that we all like to make fun of fell in was making him too Jason Voorhees, like making him too much of a zombie and too much of a quasi supernatural hulking monstrosity that's supernaturally immortal. It seemed like it was going one way in the beginning of this movie, and then by the end of this movie it's just like stab, bludgeoning, beating, and then he still gets up and kills a bunch of people and walks away. By the way, one other thing, like, this is like the most obvious Chekhov's gun that I've seen in a long time, because the instant I saw that baseball bat hanging on, behind the bar, I'm like, somebody's getting beaten to death with that baseball bat. Like,
Oh yeah.
like there's no,
Yes.
come on. You don't introduce a blunt object in a Halloween movie and not have somebody getting beaten to death with it later on. I'm just
Fair
saying.
enough.
Just like
Well,
in
that's
wrestling,
like-
if you set it up, you have to go through it. He grabbed the bat, he got beaten with it.
There you go. So
That's
that was
like
my-
the pitchfork. The pitchfork on the porch. It
Oh
lingered
yeah,
too much on it.
they hung on. Yeah, there were like long shots that like just tracked across the front porch and just stopped dead on the pitchfork. I'm like, yeah, somebody's gonna stab it.
Or the one guy actually tapping it with his golf club, going, "When I come back, I'm coming out with the pitchfork." Like, okay.
Yeah, there's that too.
There's foreshadowing, and then there's the giant neon sign that you're hanging over this.
Then there's Ken Ivory Wayans walking into frame with a mailbag yelling message.
One other thing I want to throw out about this movie, because I'm going, I guess I'm hopefully we can talk about some of the positives in a minute, but one other thing that just killed me about this movie was they blew up the entire Halloween sequel timeline. They blew up all of that continuity. They brought back Jamie Lee Curtis only to have her in exactly the same place she was in the original Halloween 2, which was the hospital bed. This movie suffered from a lack of Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, I didn't realize how important she was to the previous movie until she's barely doing anything in this one. She's barely in it, first of all, and when she's in it, she really doesn't do anything except kind of, have these weird philosophical discussions with her, with the officer that's in the room with her. This movie needed more Jamie Lee Curtis, and I hope to God she has more of a presence in the next one. Like, I really hope so.
He's not, and I'll tell you why.
Damn it.
So I did a lot of reading after I watched the movie when I was done laughing, and it's funny because it took me a day or two to watch the My Little Pony, the Next Generation. Between watching this, so I watched this Friday morning, and then I saw that I think Saturday night after WasabiCon, and that's when I started laughing hysterically because in My Little Pony there's the "Rah Rah We're an Angry Mob" song, which is actually what it's called. And all I could think about was "Rah, rah, evil dies tonight. Rah, rah, we're an angry mob." And it just made me just watching the My Little Pony song. It's funny by itself to me. Even my kids were laughing and they didn't watch Halloween. But it was made even funnier to me because of how this movie goes. Because I kept thinking about scenes from Halloween Kills and laughing that much harder about it.
If anybody, like, I know that I think we're all right around like a couple of nights, like we're right around having grown up in the 90s in this room, like right now.
Give or take.
If anybody's seen Rocko's Modern Life, like that's the big unruly mob song was all I kept thinking about. We're a big unruly mob. That's all I could think about during a lot of those scenes.
You want to make a Simpsons reference, Robert? I know you've got one in the back of your head.
That poor man at the top of the that poor guy who had to jump out of the window.
Mm-hmm.
I'm convinced he was out there looking and just waiting for someone to come along and for Homer to jump out in front of the mob and go, "My friend, stop."
Wow,
hurry.
Not the one I thought you were going to go with. I totally thought you were going to go with the movie.
There's an angry mob here to see you, sir. Does it have an appointment?
Yes, I call ahead. God bless Seymour Skinner.
You can't just keep yelling rabble, rabble, rabble. I think that's South Park. Anyway, I just wanted to. There's two things I want to talk about. Jason hit upon it, and this is where I 100% agree with Jason. This movie is not scary, and in that respect, I think it fails as. I think it fails as a horror movie. If you're not tied to something being genre specific and honoring its genre, that's fine. People don't necessarily think about film that way. But even if you're an average film goer and you're like, I want to watch a scary movie, well, okay, you would pick something from the horror genre. Almost, that would make sense, right? Naturally, you would want to pick something from the horror genre. And then you go to put this on because it's in the horror genre. It's theoretically a scary movie, and there's zero scares in it. It's like this was almost like a political commentary about the post-Trump world. And I hate to say it that way because that kind of engenders a whole other conversation. But you can't not talk about some of that with relationship to this movie. I'll get to that in a second because that's actually the second point that I want to bring up. But it just in terms of, did this movie effectively execute the principles of the horror genre? The answer is no. The kills are not particularly graphic. They're nothing. I mean, we were talking about shoot 'em up the other day, where people are getting stabbed with carrots. And
That's true. That's a scene from that movie.
And that's more graphic than anything I saw in this. At a point where they could have gotten really, really graphic and at least had one sequence that truly lives up to the genre standard, they kept cutting away from it. And all you see is the aftermath. And that's when he kills everybody in the car and then leaves them in the park.
I'll say there was one.
Okay, what?
In that same scene where I forget who the girl is, that she's a grown-up girl that was being babysat by Laurie, where she's hiding from Michael and and he's he crosses the bridge and she's trying not to breathe and failing miserably. That's about as close to suspense as it gets. I'll give it that one.
And I kept waiting for all the bugs to crawl out and for the Nazgul. Wait, wrong movie. Anyway,
that's about as Carpenter as the movie got, was right around was that scene, I think.
But yeah, I didn't think the kills were particularly graphic. I didn't think there was anything particularly scary, and to me, it was just kind of watching almost like a brutal action movie. So I didn't love this movie. I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was the worst thing ever. It's sort of like in the middle meh category for me. But here's what I liked about it. Here's what kind of saves the movie for me. We talked about this with Candyman. We talked about this with a few others over the years. I like when movies have something to say, even if I don't necessarily agree with the point of view. At least it has one. And this goes to the post-Trump stuff. So the whole thing about this movie is this, as Robert said in his plot synopsis, they're sick of the horror that Michael Myers has brought to this poor besieged town, and they're not going to stand for it anymore. And so they are gathering their courage and seeking to eliminate, the cancer from their society. They think they're in the right, but quickly, even the best intentions go astray, and they end up committing a horrible wrong. They drive a sick person to jump out of a window because they think he's Michael Myers, and as it turns out, he's not. So the fact that the movie goes out of its way to make a commentary about mob violence and mob justice, mob rule, the idea of, I can't remember where else we talked about this, but it might have been in the private chat with some of you guys. The idea of, we know better than the government. We know, we the people don't trust the media. We don't trust the government. Everyone lies to us. Everyone cheats and steals from us. We'd be better off without them. And the movie clearly has a point of view on that kind of mentality is bad. It leads to some bad decisions. It leads to some maybe bad voting. And bad things tend to happen. I don't care so much whether or not you agree with the point of view of the movie. I'm just glad the movie had a point of view. So I actually like that about it. It was to me, and I'll go over to Robert. It was the most interesting thing about this movie because the zombie running around and stabbing people wasn't interesting to me. And I know that for you guys, but that's why we watched this. Okay, but I'm not watching it necessarily as a fan of the franchise. I'm watching it as somebody who's going to do a podcast in a few days after to criticize it. And for me, I'm like, is there anything about this movie that would make me want to watch this if I wasn't scheduled to talk about it in a few days? And the answer is only the stuff having to do with mob justice. Everything else to me, including Laurie Strode's pathos in the movie, you know, her sort of paranoia, you know, and justified paranoia about this is all about me. This is all about my struggle with Michael and Michael's, you know, struggle with me. And it turns out that no, Michael just wants to go home. There's something about Michael in that house and looking out that window, and everything else is sort of secondary to that. And, you know, people who get in Michael's way get stabbed. But that's really it. And that's what this movie, that's what this whole franchise, as near as with the movies that I've seen, seems to be saying about Michael Myers is he just needs to go into his castle and sit on his throne and watch the world from there. And if you get in his way, you get stabbed with a butcher knife. End of discussion. You know, this conversation that Ronnie and I had about the first Halloween and that kind of being the sum total of Michael's ambitions and motivations is what Ronnie described as appealing about that character. And I see his point of view from that standpoint that, you know, I like the idea that they played around with Laurie thinking that this was somehow about her. And as it turns out, it's not. But I do want to address your comment there about, oh, I hope we're going to get more Laurie. We're going to get more Jamie Lee Curtis in the next movie. They have already said this is about 3 generations of women fighting this zombie dude. And so Halloween 2018 was about, you know, Laurie Strode versus Michael Myers 2 Electric Boogaloo. Halloween Kills is Laurie's daughter, Judy Greer. That's why you're here, Judy Greer. You get stabbed and chucked out a window. This was about her and her fight with Michael Myers. And so in the trilogy, to end the trilogy, the final fight is about the granddaughter. So I hoped you liked the granddaughter in the first 2 movies, boys, because you're getting a lot of her, apparently.
No.
In Halloween Ends, the search for more money.
Yeah,
I've seen worse final girls.
True.
Not
They
much
could've-
worse, but worse.
It's a matter of degrees, my friend.
Go ahead, Robert. What are your
Look,
thoughts on God, and would you really like to meet her?
I mean, look, when we talk about, if we're talking about just final girls, like you have the Holy Trinity, and then everyone else is just a degree.
Nancy, Laurie, and who?
Kirsty.
Allie from Cheers?
You haven't seen Mark?
You're fired, Mark.
I can't get mad at him. I know
Hey,
he hasn't. I know.
Hang on. Wait a minute.
What about Sydney?
I thought you meant Sydney. That's why I was
No.
like, who the fuck is Kirsty?
Kirsty's first.
Kirsty Cotton from Hellraiser.
Well, I have not seen any of
I
those
know.
movies.
That's why I'm not telling you you're fired.
I
Okay.
got to meet her.
Ooh,
I
look
still
at
have that-
you.
I still have that picture.
That's my humble brag for this episode.
You met Doug Bradley at that same con. Like, I'm jealous of all of that.
They were sitting right next to each other. It was one of the best cons I've ever been to.
So, Loki.
You're fired again, Mark.
You're rehired, but now none of us are going to do any podcast with you.
Don't lie. Don't lie. He'll twist our arms or threaten us.
Since you asked about Sydney, no. She is not one of the... Look, again, you have the 3 best, and then you have everyone else.
So your thoughts on the movie, sir?
I don't disagree with the criticisms you guys have laid out. Look, if we're all going to praise Venom, let there be carnage for its length, we're going to have to, in fairness, let's do the same courtesy to this film. It's short, if nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
It's relatively to the point. The problem is it meanders so much in the middle. They didn't really have enough story here for a full movie, so they interspersed flashbacks that they're gonna have to try and pay off in the next movie rather than necessarily in anything with this one. there's the entire bit about the entire commentary on the mob justice. It either needed to be more prevalent or to be excised. It rides this really awkward bit of how much space it occupies in the film.
Can I ask you a question about that? Are you saying that the movie doesn't take a strong enough point of view that it's a little go ahead.
I'm saying that if you want to have a commentary on mob justice, I'm not against that. But if you take 60 to 70 minutes of your 107-minute movie and only briefly address it, interspersed with a couple of violent kills that are designed for nothing more than a cheap gore factor, you have a structural problem with your film. Your ratio's off. This needed to be more about that or significantly less.
Okay.
I think the fact that they kind of like it's a lukewarm film in that respect. Like this segment that it wants to discuss is enough to keep it from being either a pleasant cold bath or a pleasant jacuzzi trip. And so it winds up as just, a 68 degree day or whatever. You just kind of
45. Hang on, it's a 45-degree day.
Jesus, what the fuck did I do? You happy now, bitch?
You feel better about yourself now?
I really do.
Oh, God, no.
There are people that we know that watch these that ask me to do that, and I'm giving the people what they want. Please continue.
Well, whoever asked for that, I hate you.
But by the way, Mark, you live in Tampa. When's the last 45-degree day you saw?
Well, if we go by Celsius, he gets them all the time.
Yeah. There you go.
So I think that's kind of my point about that. It's fine. It's a perfectly acceptable thing to talk about in these movies. There's nothing saying that you can't, but you need either a more in-depth commentary on it, or you need to severely diminish it to the point where there's a mob, but not necessarily a handful of people going, "No, you sheep, don't you understand? It's the wrong person." Like, come on.
I think to your point, there needed to be more greater consequence for their actions. Just the one guy, the one crazy guy going out the window probably wasn't enough, considering there's no consequence for that either. They're just like, Dennis Leary, sorry, I fucked up, and then they move on. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I don't know if Robert, if you have more to add, I'll make this quick. Yeah, I had an idea of going into this what to expect, because I read a couple of interviews. I think David Gordon Green talked a little bit about the loose idea and the plot of what this was going to be about, and he said, the like mob mentality and the angry mob, hysteria in a small town was going to be a big factor in this movie. And that got me thinking, like, I think the problem where that subplot goes wrong is that I don't think it factors into the Michael Myers stuff enough. It's almost it's so far removed from each other that it could almost be two completely separate movies. Yeah. And they're two separate movies that have good ideas, but when you mash them together, you derail both the plots of both. You derail both plots. I thought it was going to be something like where, Michael Myers is going around town killing people, and the townspeople are so whipped up in this mob mentality that they can't organize to really stop him. And he's once again like, I'm hoping for the sort of clever
he wanders through the mob, like they're screwed up about somebody else, and
something like that.
The natural consequence of the mob justice and targeting the wrong person should have been Michael Myers getting away with more murders.
Something like that, because don't get me wrong, like I don't I went back and forth during with that subplot of is this too over the top a portrayal of, mob mentality with, with townspeople? I went back and forth.
Okay. I'm going to tell you that it's like the kids' picture book, like a pop-up book. It's so in your face.
I think in parts, I don't have a whole lot of trouble believing that, the right, combination of people can get whipped up into really stupid hysteria this easily.
I think the problem that I had with it was when they literally stormed the hospital.
Yeah,
like when they're using it as a base of operations, like I'm there, and when there's this constant kind of back and forth between a couple of the police officers who are like, please, can we not resort to the lowest common denominator, and everyone else going, you morons have had how many chances to fix this,
right,
and it's not fixed.
There's that distrust of the government, then, of your institution. So Ben, I'm not saying that it wasn't realistic. I think in a lot of ways that it was, but I think it's turned up, and that's why I said it's like the kids' like pop-up book version of this, because in case you miss the subtlety, they have to.
They're chanting "Evil dies tonight." Yeah,
they have to turn it up, and just in case the audience didn't get what this was.
No, I'm with you about that. I'm just saying it kind of teeters back and forth between the cartoonish over the topness of it, and then something that resembles real life a little bit too much. Maybe not. Maybe the ratio is like 80-20 as far as far as the cartoonishness, and then the stuff that's believable, but it's still there. And like I said, I swear to God, I thought a million times to write this down. It's the quote from Men in Black where he's like, a person is sane and rational. People,
I know this by heart. Actually,
go ahead.
A person is smart. People are dumb, dangerous, panicky animals, and you know it.
Thank you.
What else, Robert?
I liked some of the kills. Some of them were pretty good. Not all, but some. I mean, the problem with using the fluorescent light tube to stab that poor woman in the neck is I've seen too many death matches.
Damn it! I didn't want to cut you off because we all kind of we all get quiet and take and have our opportunity to speak, and then Robert talks and we're like, I agree with you, I disagree. Like Robert never gets to complete a thought, but damn it, you beat me to the Nick Gage joke.
You beat me to it. Nick Gage spent a day on the set as the Michael Myers double, apparently.
They told him this old black woman is David Arquette.
Hang on.
If you don't know that story, I believe is there a Dark Side of the Ring about that particular match?
Yes,
I think
there is. Yeah, there is.
I mean, the irony, of course, being that Nick Gage himself almost died due to a light tube malfunction, so it's a real thing. So I mean, I didn't hate that. My issue there was if you're gonna stab someone in the neck with a shattered fluorescent light tube, can you give me a visual of like the carotid spewing into the empty tube, please? Like there's stuff you can do here.
Yeah, she should have guys out the neck.
What's the other couple of? I liked him stalking the group in the car. I mean, it's a very obvious callback to other stuff that Myers has done. The knife through the eye I thought was decent. Some of the other stuff not so much. The other good kill. I mean, his violent murder of one half of that gay couple was pretty good. Sadly, it gets a little bit too cartoony for its own good when he thumbs into the eyes, and they actually the eyes come out of the sides of the head, and then we get fountains of blood. It's like, okay, come on.
They did that in one of the Rob Zombie movies too.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he does that with Malcolm McDowell, right?
I was thinking it was the second one.
Yeah, I think that's the end of the second one.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, which actually works a little bit better in that franchise because Rob Zombie is so deliberately excessive with his gore and violence that, okay, it plays.
Also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Also, Rob Zombie cast Tyler Mane, who's like 6'8" and 380 pounds, and so if you wanted a Jason Voorhees, sized Michael Myers, Rob Zombie gave it to you.
The irony being that Hodder Kane is 5'8". But he's not tall. He's really not. He's just but he is as wide as he
massive.
is
Yeah,
tall.
he's massive.
Like,
He's
he's
a
a
massive
big
guy.
guy.
Yeah.
That's not me dunking on him as far as that goes, but he's not a tall guy. They use a lot of camera tricks to make when he was Jason to make him look taller because he's broad enough to pull that off just as he is. He's very large in that respect. So yet a couple of decent kills. A lot of them I thought were a little bit more on the ho-hum side.
What's up, Jason?
I just want to know if anybody else had issues with the lady's husband being killed, and him just going through every knife on the wall and making him into a pincushion.
I actually kind of dug that.
I'm down for that.
See, I didn't like it because it is so out of the MO that you expect. I mean, his is
on this one. He's more of a utility killer, not a.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it was just like his MO is very brutal kills. Not just sit there and stab someone in the back repeatedly with different knives, and just saves the one that he wants to take with him.
And then try to like sell it on Etsy.
I'll defend.
What are we going for here? Go ahead.
I'll defend that real quick. If we're just going by this particular series of movies, the way this was, there's some precedent of that in the first, in Halloween 2018, where you have like one of my favorite parts of that movie is like the brilliant tracking shot of just him on the streets in Haddonfield, just killing one person after another. And it starts off, he finds the first thing that he sees, which is a claw hammer, and he goes and beats this woman to death. And then from there, he takes one kind of knife, and then he goes to the next house and kills the next person. And then eventually he finds like the kitchen knife, the signature kitchen knife. Is like a little bit like, Jason Voorhees with his machete. He's got a signature weapon. So to me, this was him like, I've got time. I can take my time with these people. Let me find something that feels close enough to that.
And the first one, he grabs the kitchen after he beats her to death with the hammer. He gets the butcher's knife as he's leaving. So I mean, that's right after he's going down the road. He beats her with the hammer, and then he grabs a knife, and he has the knife the rest of the movie.
Does he? Here's a problem with that. Michael Myers, from what I've seen, I would buy the fact that there's something about killing people for him that brings him to ecstasy if he ever showed that. This thing, it always seemed, and this is why I agreed with Jason, and Jason, I'll let you conclude your point in a second so we can go back to Robert, but it always felt to me like, again, the reason he is killing people is because they're in the way, not because it brought him to ecstasy, not because it gave him some sort of thrill. It was, I just need to, I need to mow down the wheat in order to get through the field to get to where I need to be.
I don't know if that's 100% true though. Like, because every once in a while, he'll literally get creative with, it's not every time he kills somebody, but every once in a while he'll get creative. Like he sticks the cop's flashlight inside his severed head to make him look like a jack-o'-lantern in the previous movie.
Okay, so occasionally he gets a little Etsy.
Yeah, every once in a while he decides to dress it up a little bit. He gets a little bit Gordon Ramsay with it. He's like,
and now I need to see that. I need to see him just like take a step back and be like selfie.
Yeah.
Like ta-da.
When he's pressed for time, he'll settle for a simple knife in the gut, knife in the throat, knife in the heart. But
you give him time, he'll make a tableau.
Yeah,
he'll set people on a merry-go-round and string another one up with the chain.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean,
that's
fair. And the couple at the end, Robert's bestest buddy Michael McDonald, he posed him like they were in the photo. Like I thought that he kind of went out of his way to do that.
That was a really nice little subtle touch that I thought they put in there. That he literally posed their dead bodies the same way they're in that loving pose that they took in the photograph that's above them. It was a really nice little thing.
I need more of that. I need an entire movie of him like doing impressionist art.
And it goes back to the original original 78 Halloween movie where he stabs the dude in the chest through the wall and he stops and it's totally silent and he does the head tilt like oh, that's interesting. Every once in a while he's actually kind of kind of taken by what he just did. That is consistent in the 2008 Halloween. He does that at least twice in that movie.
Okay.
And there's a little bit of that in the, I get what you're saying, but I think there's some evidence to show like he's not completely indifferent to killing.
I say my favorite thing that came out of the story about him, stabbing him and then looking at him. When the actor playing Michael Myers in the original Halloween asked John Carpenter for his motivation, and he just said, "Your motivation is to stab the guy."
I need a scene where Michael Myers kills somebody, but when he's done, he makes them look like a can of soup. Jason, real quick, anything else before Robin can conclude this point? We can move on.
No, like I said, I mean, I just didn't like. I thought the whole porcupine kill kind of took me out of it a little bit, and that's where I kind of just checked out and was like, because between that and Anthony Michael Hall, that I'll never be able to watch in the Breakfast Club again.
That's I called him Michael C. Hall earlier.
Yeah, I was about to correct
early.
you, but I'm like, that's not right.
I was about to say,
that's not Dexter. That's not Dexter.
That's a good idea for a crossover, though. That's an underrated idea for a crossover.
What the Dexter
versus Michael
or Breakfast Club and Halloween?
We're a jock, a princess.
It'll be
a basket case,
yes,
and a serial killer.
It'll be like the Avengers of '80s, and like series. Like they'll all come together. They'll all be built up in separate movies. They'll all come together.
And at the end, to set up the sequel, they are saved by being hit by the Ferrari driven by Ferris Bueller. Like he runs over the.
Right on, like that. That's the after credit sequence right there. There's your Marvel like post credit scene.
Then he looks at the screen again and says, "What are you doing here? Go home."
The weird chick from Breakfast Club that would be played by Michael Myers.
Ali, playing the part of Ali Sheedy is Michael Myers. Good.
Yes, and Molly Ringwald has to put makeup on her too, on the white mask too.
First time Michael Myers ever speaks, "I'm a pretty girl."
They already did that with Leatherface. We saw how badly that went.
That's true.
So, Robert, I'm about to hit the solo key button.
Your guys are the ones who. That's not on me. All right. I think a couple. Again, I mentioned the kills. I thought there were a couple of good ones. I'm with Benjamin that the two subplots here for this movie never quite blend, and I think that's a big problem that it has. A couple of more. Let me do one positive, and then I want to bring up one of my more negative things. The actor that they had in the makeup department, who made that actor look so much like Donald Pleasance from the original film.
Yes.
Like, you guys, seriously, that was amazing.
I thought that was CG. It was so good that I thought that was and very good CG actually.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure they got credit for that because he looks so much like Donald Pleasance as Loomis that it's a little bit freaky. So serious kudos to everyone who did that. I think my biggest problem with this, and Ben talked about this, but I'm going to kind of reiterate it. Michael Myers operates best when you're not quite sure where the line between reality and supernatural exists. There's no mythology. There's no question around, Jason Voorhees. Depending on which movie you're in, he's either wholly real or, after a certain point, wholly unreal. The first couple of movies, it's entirely possible for a real person to survive what he survives. By the time we get to, Friday the 13th, 4, give or take, or when he's dead and then they decide to dig him up because they're stupid and want to confirm that he's dead and a lightning bolt strikes the shovel that they left stuck through his chest. We get really stupid really fast. But it's very clear with Jason, with Voorhees, which side of the spectrum we're on. By the same token, either Pinhead or Freddy exist entirely on the supernatural side of things. There's no ambiguity around this. Freddy is a dream monster, and Pinhead is Pinhead. He somewhat lacks classification as far as that goes. He's a demon after a fashion. Michael Myers works best when you're never quite sure. When he's stalking and you get glimpses and wait a minute, is that a real person? Is that not? And then suddenly then he comes up and he stabs you and you try to fight him off and you hit him, but he just kind of eats it and keeps coming. And there's always a little bit of, well, maybe I don't hit that hard. And maybe he just got a heck of a chin. Those people exist. Or you shoot at him and you never quite hit him. And this works sometimes, but not others. The fact that everyone in this movie seemed to have stormtrooper aim was a bit of a problem for me. There's circumstances where it works. People who are not used to firing guns, especially at another human being, panicking in a moment of adrenaline and fear, like, sure, I'll buy that. Everybody missing him, like, that strains credulity in some really unpleasant ways.
I feel like I made a stormtrooper joke at some point during this movie.
Probably.
Mm.
So he needs to be, again, a little bit between where you hit him and you think maybe he's a bit hurt, but he just keeps coming. And then, in the original, Laurie like stabs him in the face with a coat hanger right near the end. And he reacts to this because it goes in the eye. And that's kind of what you need. You need this balance between, okay, maybe he's just a guy who's tougher than the average guy. And at the same time, whenever you see that in real life, if you've ever watched one of those, by way of example, if you've ever watched one of those fights where both guys are just getting wailed on, but nobody's going down, and this is extraordinary, like that exists. But you also need the hint, the little bit of hint that maybe, just maybe, this isn't just a tough guy. Maybe, just maybe, this is something beyond the pale. And then and to be fair, that's a really hard line to walk. Most of these movies don't do it well. The best ones do. And this movie not being able to quite find that balance for most of it, especially at the end, where he survives being stabbed in the back with a pitchfork, a bunch of blunt force trauma to the head and ribs, being stabbed in a pretty vulnerable area, like right through the back of his shoulder blade, and then nearly shot in the head. Like, you've just gone too far on the wrong side of this. Like, if that group shows up and they attack him and he cuts his way through but gets beat along the way, that's kind of what we need more than what we got. So I think that's a problem that this movie has. The 2018 movie does a much better job of walking that line of, okay, he's a real guy, he's been in a mental institution forever, he's a real flesh and blood human being. And then there's just a couple of things that he does and a couple of times when he gets hit and just keeps coming that make you go, you're not normal, are you? And it's, like I said, it's not an easy line to walk, but if you're trying to make a Halloween movie, that's the line you have to, like, you're not getting on the balance beam thinking you're walking down the sidewalk. Like, you're getting on the balance beam here. So you better be able to keep your balance. And this movie just couldn't for its duration. So I think that was a little bit of a downer as far as the ending goes. Not to mention the fact that the ending, when he does his Hulk Hogan comeback, not a very well shot sequence. They don't do a great job. It's not well shot. It's not well edited. It's kind of a problem.
Would anybody been upset if you would have heard Real American just cue up when he started making the comeback?
I actually wanted the Ultimate Warrior's music. I wanted him to just start shaking and be like, and then he just runs around cutting people, and that which leads me to what I was going to say. I wish that scene had been more graphic. And, and Robert knows me. We've been doing this for like 10 years now. And I'm not really into gross, but I feel like that scene called for it. And I think that to me is my biggest problem with this movie is that it almost was like, well, we complain about this with like Marvel movies and stuff, but it seems like this is happening now in the horror genre where it's like, yeah, we're already behind the 8 ball. It's rated R, but as Deadpool shows us, you can have a successful, plus $100+ million movie, several $100 million movie be rated R. People will come if you give them the right product. But it's just, what I'm getting to is, it feels like we don't want the niche horror fans. We want as wide an audience as possible that'll watch this thing. And so it's okay, but not everyone's into gross, even if they're into horror. So let's tone down the graphic nature of these things, and it becomes like, when you become all things to everybody, you ultimately become nothing. And that, to me, is the biggest problem with Halloween Kills. When it's not evoking its socio-political message, it's a nothing movie. Robert, I'll give you the last word on this, and then we'll move on.
You bringing up, how this is that particular trend as far as Hollywood goes, because I mean, it's true of Marvel, but you're right, it's becoming more true of everything. That makes me more and more concerned for the Hellraiser reboot that's coming down the pipe. Whoever, on the off chance that some unpaid intern listening to this is working on that project or knows another unpaid intern who happens to be on that project, it's a Hellraiser movie. For God's sake, we all know what we're getting into. Please don't do this to that movie.
It's the first Hellraiser movie in a while that Clive Barker feels confident enough to attach his name to. So that gives
That's
me
at least
some
something.
pause. That gives me some pause,
And as sad as I am that they don't have Doug Bradley back as Pinhead, he's kind of moved on from it at this point. So I'm more curious about what they're going to do with the voice, because the actress that they've hired, if they want to do the little girl's voice that comes out of Pinhead,
please, I'm hoping so much they do that.
You're going to need a quality voice actor, because I don't think the actress in question can do that.
Hey, Jason.
Yo.
What did you think of the music in Halloween Kills?
The music was phenomenal, Mark. Where can I listen to it at?
I'm so glad you asked, Jason. You can listen to it on Amazon Music Unlimited. I know.
Seamless segue.
Totally believable. We are giving away a free 30 days of the Amazon Music Unlimited service. And if you click the link in the description at getamazonmusic.com/W2M network, thanks, Ben, you can have access to that free 30 days, and you can stream all of the free Halloween music and other Halloween music. Those are 3 different Halloweens, referencing 3 different things that you want. And when you're done, with that, you can listen to Ministries Every Day is Halloween, both versions. You can listen to all kinds of we have Halloween coming up, the actual holiday. You're going to have trick-or-treaters come to your door. You want to play spooky music. You don't have a spooky music CD. What do you do? You go on your Amazon Music streaming and you stream spooky music. It's all there. There's all kinds of albums that you can stream for free if you click that link at getamazonmusic.com/W2M network. To get your free 30 days of the Amazon Music Unlimited service. If you like it, you keep it beyond the 30 days. You pay for it monthly like you do with Spotify or Apple Music. You don't, you can cancel. There's no contract, no fuss, no muss. And with that, here comes the money.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
Alrighty, friends and pals and gals.
Fun story. I used to watch professional wrestling with one of my aunts. It was something we bonded over for a bit. Her most recent ex-husband apparently dances exactly like Shane McMahon when he comes out.
I believe it.
That's amazing. All right, so this thing has been profitable. It is a unmitigated success for Blumhouse and Universal Pictures, despite the fact that it was day and date on Peacock for no additional fee if you're already a premium subscriber.
Here's the problem with that. Nobody has Peacock. Peacock is not... Sure, so does Mark.
If you're a wrestling fan, you might have
exactly.
Peacock.
Yeah, but that's kind of it. Being day and date on HBO Max is a problem because HBO Max is a very successful I don't know. It's a big thing. Occasionally Netflix will do a little bit of that, but I imagine that would be would be difficult for them because certain streaming services just have a much bigger market share. Peacock does not. Being day and date on Paramount Plus for other stuff is not going to hurt it that much. That's not a very popular service right now.
They premiered this at the 78th Venice International Film Festival. What a weird decision that is.
Why not?
Yeah, Venice.
Sure. All right. So this on a budget of $20 million, this has at the time of this recording has made almost $60 million, 57.7 to be clear. So again, if you're using the math that we use, which is twice the budget, give or take, this thing's already profitable. Again, despite having a cannibalized market of being day and date, despite what Robert says that nobody has Peacock, so it didn't matter. Did matter. I've seen the numbers.
Again, I'm not saying nobody has it. I'm saying if you look at how many people have Peacock versus how many people have HBO Max,
Sure.
One of those is not like the other.
Here, the story that came out about this, two actually that I want to talk about. One was how if the narrative at the very least, maybe not a story, but the narrative was if you give people will go to the theater to see something worth going to the theater for, even when they have the option of going at home. Which reminds me, Pabone, go see Dune on an IMAX theater. You don't need to see it at home. All right, moving on. That was for a coworker. Anyway, the other thing that came out about this was the early reviews on this were like, there were a lot of reviewers that were just like, and we'll talk about this with Rotten Tomatoes, but I just want to bring it up now. The early reviews on this was like, this is just yet another 2 hours of Michael Myers stabbing his way through the village. And somebody quoted that on Twitter and then like put up like, a meme of, somebody looking happy. Like basically, I don't know what film critics were thinking about this, but for a lot of Halloween fans, this was exactly what they wanted. And they went to the movies to go see it. And we'll talk about like the difference between the critic score and the audience score in just a moment. But
it's the same statement, for two different audiences.
Yeah,
it's Principal Skinner saying, today's honor students will be rewarded with a trip to an archaeological dig, and conversely, today's detention students will be punished with a trip to an archaeological dig.
Darn right.
It's basically that.
Yay.
Yep. All right, so Halloween Kills debuted in the number 1 spot.
Significantly overperformed relative to expectations.
Yeah, I did want to talk about that I guess
you want to know part of why it overperformed, Mark?
Why?
Because day and date on Peacock is not the same as day and date on a bigger streaming service.
Thanks, Robert. Anyway, so yeah, they were not projecting a $50 million weekend for Halloween Kills, but that's what it got. It knocked No Time to Die out of the first spot, but we knew that was going to happen when we talked about that last week. That had
more troubling is that drop.
Yeah, I was going to say that had a 56.9% drop, which, Robert, like in 10 words, how significant is that?
That's certainly non-trivial. I mean, you would expect this to have been a closer race if Halloween was going to knock No Time to Die out of the top spot. You'd think it would have been closer, given that we're talking about a $20 million picture against a $200 million James Bond entry. That's the last hurrah for Daniel Craig's character. So that much is a non-trivial drop. That's not great.
Venom fell from 2 to 3 in its third week, and it only had a 48% drop, which is not bad for its third week. It also is in significantly less theaters. I mean, look at the theater drop there, Robert. It's 212.
A lot of places cut that, thankfully. Unfortunately, a lot of the Russian theaters chains got that movie now, and they all seem to love it.
Mm-hmm.
So between Russia and China, more Venom, and I hate the both of you.
The Addams Family 2, which is currently day and date VOD, fell from 3 to 4, and it had a 30% drop in 600 less theaters. We're like, one weekend was good enough for Addams Family. Let's get it out of the way. Watch it at home. Even my family hasn't watched that one yet.
And let's talk about the latest crater to be made on the Impact, the latest Impact crater.
The Last Duel. And did you say bomb? Yeah, The Last Duel, which Ronnie and I will be talking about this weekend coming up, debuted with almost $5 million. Yikes!
That thing had a budget of right around 100 million.
Oh, that came with the 20th Century Fox purchase. Disney's just going to write that off like, you win some, you lose some.
Well, look, in fairness to that movie, and I do mean this in fairness, they created based on what I've seen, I haven't seen the movie, but based on every trailer, every bit of, promotional material that they've released, they created something that is accurate to the medieval, to that time period. So you need horses, you need costuming, you need a lot of people, you need to build sets for that. Like, that's a significant endeavor. I still think 100 million is, they're banking on this thing getting Oscars more than anything else.
Well, no, they were also thinking that old people would come to this. The narrative on this has been, if in normal times this would have gotten like my parents to go see it, and they're not going to the movies right now.
Yeah, that thing has not done well. They're really going to be hoping for award season to kind of bolster its numbers and kind of buzz. But
Shang-Chi in its 7th week fell from 4 to 6 at a 22% drop and is in 500 less theaters.
Yeah, that's just wrapping up its theatrical run at this point, unless it gets approved by the Chinese government, and I doubt it will.
Something called Hansa Rock debuted at 706,000 at number 7. Free Guy fell from 6 to 8, so that's still in the top 10, and that was from like August. That had a 47.9% drop and made 645,000 for the weekend, and that's in significantly less theaters too at 580. Lamb fell from 8 to 9, had a 45.7% drop, and what's weird about that though is they added more theaters, 282, which is kind of funny to me. There's some talk about, I heard a review on it from the critically acclaimed guys. I've heard some possible buzz that might get nominated for an award or two. We'll see. Apparently, like I thought with the premise of it, which is basically like a mutant, human lamb hybrid is born to this farm family, and hilarity ensues. I was hoping for like some real esoteric horror, and apparently it's not. It's like, so there's this half lamb child, but what we need to talk about is relationship. It's like,
it's a character drama.
Yeah, it's like, wait, what? So yeah, that's a little bait and switchy. Most eligible bachelor debuted at number 10. Candyman fell out of the top 10 to number 11. Dear Evan Hansen, you suck. Love Mark.
Darn right.
Fell from 7 to 12.
Like, if I were to watch, like, I think one of the things I've laughed the hardest at when I was watching Saturday Night Live, there was one of the skits was it's like a bad CD commercial for their Robert Goulet character that's done by Will Ferrell.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reviews that they posted on they had a voiceover for as he's singing in the background and they're trying to do the sale. This reviewer goes, I watched this live in concert and was so angry I threw a battery at the screen.
I remember that one.
Falling out of the top 10 in several spots is The Many Saints of Newark, currently day and date on HBO Max. Speaking of which, that had an 88% drop.
Well, and it's basically out of theaters now. Look at how many theaters it lost.
It's out of all the theaters everywhere.
Pretty much.
That fell from 5 to 13. Jungle Cruise fell from 11 to 14. Titan is now currently available on VOD. And if you don't know what Titan is, a woman gets pregnant by a car. So that's on my must-watch list when I have some free time.
Yeah, we discussed this before, Mark, that we got to watch that.
Mark, what you do in your own time is your own business.
Currently planning a triple feature with that. I want that, Lamb.
With what? My mother the car?
Well, no. It's going to be that.
No, Herbie fully loaded.
Hang on. The Love Bug. No. Not even fully loaded. The Love Bug. We got to go original here.
And what's the John Carpenter film where the car's alive?
Christine.
Yes.
Christine.
Look,
Based on Stephen King.
I was gonna lobby for the counselor because Cameron Diaz has sex with a car in that movie.
What?
Done. So Titan, the counselor, and Carrie. Who's up for this?
Now I have.
Why are we watching Carrie?
Now I have to watch.
Okay, look, has sex might be exaggerating the point, but she graphically grinds on the hood and windshield of a car.
Listen.
Wow.
You had me at car. All right. Listen.
You had me at car.
I had Mark at car. I had the rest of you at Cameron Diaz.
Yeah. Well, there's that.
While Javier Bardem watches with a bleach blonde haircut.
Please tell me
It's
it's
the
White
Hellraiser.
Snake playing in the background.
I hope.
I forget the
Excuse me
music.
excuse me for just a minute. Hold on.
It's one of the craziest movies. Like it was supposed to be good, but it's so not.
Expected you to come back sweaty and out of breath, Ben. All right, let's move this on. Cry Macho fell from 15 to 16. After We Fell 16 to 17. Monster Family 2, whatever that is, from Viva Pictures, debuted
That's
at
the follow up
18
to
with
Monster Family.
Thank you, Jason. With a paltry $57,000. Bergman Island, $55,000 at number 19. Hard Luck Love Song, $36,000. Number 21 from Roadside Attractions. Introducing Selma Blair at 31. Luzu at 32. And that was the weekend that was. All right. So we've had some movement on the worldwide scale here. Rumor has it that after this weekend, No Time to Die will be taking that 5th spot ahead of Godzilla versus Kong. So right now where we stand is that your 2 top movies of the year are both Chinese Chinaman movies. And then we have our first Hollywood feature to crack more than plus 700 million with F9, and that's the way it's been since it came out in June.
Wow.
Detective Chinatown 3
does not look promising, does it? Like
this is going to be a weird year, almost as weird as 2020 in terms of like the worldwide box office.
I missed all the discourse on F9. I'm still processing the discourse on F8, which is the only one of that franchise that I saw in the theater.
Look, the only good thing about F8 was Jason Statham and the baby. Like those two have ridiculous chemistry. I'm surprised they didn't get the spinoff.
Here's the thing about F8. I'll make this very quick. I can believe in a high-speed car chase across like a frozen, in the Arctic. I can believe dudes in wingsuits jumping across, jumping planes, to create, various espionage situations. The Fast and Furious movies basically have become the G.I. Joe movies that we never actually got. That's a direct quote from one of my best friends. Hi, how's it going?
That's very true.
The one thing I can't believe, the one bit of disbelief that I couldn't suspend in the entire Fast franchise was in F8, where somehow they managed to pull off a high-speed chase in Midtown Manhattan. That's just a bridge too far for me. I've biked through Times Square before. There's no way in hell that is ever going to be a thing. So that's what broke my illusion for me.
All right. So Detective Chinatown 3 is currently the only one between 5 and 700 million at 686. Godzilla vs. Kong holding that 5th place spot, but not for long, as No Time to Die is quickly on its tail at 449 million. Shang-Chi holding steady at 414 million.
Boy, Shang-Chi, I said this last week, I'm going to repeat it.
Mm-hmm.
Shang-Chi is not going to make $500 million.
Yeah, I was about to reference that I think I said that it'll just crack 500 million, and I'm probably going to end up being off on that.
I've never missed seeing an MCU movie in the theater, and I'm debating whether or not to make it in under the wire to see Shang-Chi in theater.
I think look, I mean, if you're not like super critical of the Marvel movies,
I'm not.
Yeah. Then go see it. You'll have a good time, and it's worth seeing on. It's for the spectacle that it is. It's worth seeing on the big screen.
I might argue that it doesn't
Fine.
make the best use of the big screen, but
Dude, I saw Black Widow in the theater. Was it better? Is it on?
It's 100% better than Black Widow.
Fine, then I need to see it in the theater. Period. Okay, we can move on from
But
that.
it's not as good as anyone having
movie.
sex with a car. Speaking of,
hang on. Wait for the
Hey, now.
Eternals. Wait for the Eternals. There's going to be awkward conversations had between
okay,
parents
so
and children.
can I bring this up now? When we review the Eternals, can we just and I don't want to. 3 out of the 4 people who are going to be reviewing the Eternals are on this podcast. Can we just keep referring to it as Sad Piano, the superhero movie, and just not explain what we're talking about?
No.
I was going to put that in the title too. Tonight we're reviewing Sad Piano, the superhero movie.
Do you need a 4th for Eternals?
No, we got a 4th.
Fine.
But you want to review it for my roundtable? That's where that's.
No,
at.
I just want to profess my love for Salma Hayek for the billionth
Well, we
time.
can talk from dusk till dawn and do that. You
Oh
don't need
yes,
to wait for
we
the
can.
Eternals.
Oh yes, we can.
All right, you and I will talk, sir. Apparently, you need to be on all the podcasts.
Yes,
the time.
I
Look,
do.
if Tarantino gave us nothing more than that sequence, he would have
Yeah,
been.
he
He
did.
still would have been
Rrrr.
an absolute treasure for the film industry.
Black Widow at number 8 at 379, where it has been since June. Free Guy at number 9 at 328 million. That's a win for Disney, for such as it is. And A Quiet Place Part 2 has fallen to number 10. At number 11 is Venom with 284, Cruella 233, Jungle Cruise 212. Couple of other ones of note
serious
here.
question. Hang on. Serious
Yes.
question about Venom.
Yeah,
Do we think it cracks 300 million?
I mean it's only like 16 million away. Why wouldn't it?
Sorry, hang on. I can't read. Oh, sorry. Too many circular numbers in a row there. So let me rephrase. Do we think it beats Black Widow?
Ooh, it's a little far away from that. It's got to make another $100 million, and it's only getting further away from the target. Maybe we'll see. I would not bet the house on that.
I think it gets pulled before the promotion machine starts kicking in for Spider-Man No Way Home.
So
Probably, yeah. That's coming up.
Yeah.
Real quick, just a couple of ones of, like I said, of note here. The Conjuring's at 201 million. Suicide Squad is 106 million. 167 million rather.
Boy, did that thing underperform. And I mean, I know it was day and date, and that caused a lot of problems for it. But man,
I enjoyed it.
That's not a critique of the film. That's a critique
it's
of
just
where it landed.
nobody left their house to go see it. But
Apropos of nothing, by the way, it turns out that Tarantino is not the only director with a thing for Margot Robbie's feet.
True.
Just saying.
Hey, Robert, was the height of the resurgence of COVID in July? Because I feel like that was a huge reason why nobody went to the movies to see it, to see things if they could have seen it at home.
I'm trying to remember when the real talk of the Delta variant thing kicked.
I know my kids went back to school in August. And the first
late July, early August.
The first few weeks of school, everybody got the COVID twice and was being sent home left and right. My wife tells me like she had 5 kids in her class of like 25. So that's what I'm thinking. Like it's I can't criticize the July August releases too much if they didn't make a lot of money and there was a day and date option. Everyone had the COVID, including me.
I don't care though, because I get to laugh at the next movie even more with Space Jam: A New Legacy, having further proof that LeBron exists entirely in the shadow of Michael Jordan in everything he does and has to live with that reality.
Alexis Haynes' favorite movie of the year, Tom and Jerry, still beating Raya and the Last Dragon. Take that, Disney. And finally, just to move this on, I'm going to keep needling her every chance I get. But finally, we have Dune, which gets its U.S. release, but it's already been released around the world. Currently at 129 million, and it also will be day and date this Thursday on HBO Max.
Also, I have to say this, and on the off chance any of our audience is not aware of this fact, that Dune is only part 1, and it's not being advertised as such. It's only the first half of the book.
So this weekend, Dune will obviously be the number 1 movie of the weekend. despite it being day and date. I don't have anything else on my calendar here, and I shut down Box Office Mojo, but I mean, that's going to be the big one that everyone's going to go see. The following week, the big movie is Last Night in Soho, and I think there's
That's
something
not going to be.
else.
I don't think that's going to be big.
No, but I
I'm
think
gonna see it though.
But you know,
Ditto.
so okay, so here's the thing, though. I think everyone who was interested in seeing Halloween Kills either saw it or is willing to just watch it at home at this point. So I don't think it makes significantly more money in the next 2 weeks, and then it won't matter anymore because November 5th is Eternals. After Eternals,
I don't know. I tend to think November 5th Halloween Kills make its a resurgence, and the Eternals debuts at number 2.
Shut up. There's not Eternals has a 2-week run of because the 12th is all Netflix and streaming stuff. There's no competition on the 12th, but then Ghostbusters comes out the 19th, and then we have the week of Thanksgiving, which is Encanto, House of Gucci, and Resident Evil. Because let's put all the movies on one day.
Hey.
And then December 3rd is nothing because the Guillermo del Toro movie moved to the middle of the month. West Side Story comes out the 10th, and then we're pretty much into the end of the year with Spider-Man, Kingsman, and Matrix 4, and for the kids, Sing 2. So, like I said, the discussions of Halloween Kills and its money are pretty much done at this point. And
it'll keep trickling in money for the rest of its run, but it's not.
It did what it needed to do. It debuted early in October to gain, to get whatever money it was going to make from the Halloween audience. Which
I would be
smart.
The most significant data point to me, and this will be the last thing we'll move on, is how many new subscriptions for Peacock did it generate, and will there be churn or will there be retention? And we don't have an answer to that right now. It's more of a thought exercise question.
Unless you're a shareholder in NBC Universal, you're probably not going to get a straight answer
right.
either.
But that would be
5.
I mean, it's already financially successful because of its small budget. And the interest that it did have. So on that level, they're all shaking Jason Blum's hand and saying, "Good job, buddy. Forward to the next one." But I think the more interesting thing was the experiment of putting this day and date on Peacock beneficial, or did they cannibalize even more money that they could have made? And we don't know the answer to that right now. I think what was the stat that I showed from I shared with the group from Samba? Robert, was it like 1 million people watched it on Peacock, or am I imagining
like that? I don't remember exactly.
I feel like Samba reported that 1 million people watched it on Peacock, which is not bad considering the other stuff that I've shared from Samba TV.
Didn't know 1 million people had Peacock.
Yes, because people still watch wrestling pay-per-views. God damn it!
Do they? Right. Do they though?
Speaking of God damn it!
Well, hang on. Speaking of wrestling, Crown Jewel's on Thursday.
Sure is, and if you have Peacock, you can watch it.
Ain't watching.
I'm reviewing it, so I have to watch. Woe is me.
I have alternate means of watching, and I still ain't watching it.
Yar. All right. Speaking of pirates.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
All righty. Well, as you can see, the critics and the audiences do not agree on this one. The critics hated it with 39% rotten at 182 reviews, and the audience just loved it. They bathed themselves with it. They smeared it all over their. Never mind. They had sex with the car, is what I'm trying to tell you. At 71%, with 2,500 plus.
Was it a Pinto?
It was a Gremlin.
Pinto, wasn't it?
I'll be right back.
Halloween Kills. Halloween Kills should satisfy fans in search of brute slasher thrills. But in terms of advancing the franchise, it's a bit less than the sum of its bloody parts. And the audience says, rah, rah, we're an angry mob. Sorry. Halloween Kills doesn't do much to move the Michael Myers saga forward, but viewers looking for hardcore horror violence won't be disappointed, and they weren't neither.
Listen.
There was nothing hardcore about that.
Okay,
Except the
I
Nick
love that
Cage
you did that,
reference.
but I didn't know what you were doing because I wasn't on the page, and this is still an audio medium on some platforms. Could you please share with the class what you're showing and telling?
No, I'm holding a very large kitchen knife in my hand.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Hang on.
Oh, for fuck's sake. We really are doing show and tell. When did this become a prop
here
show?
we go.
See, this is why I hate doing video.
Oh,
Except to see except to see Robert have an aneurysm.
You knew what you were getting into when you invited me. I'm a big fucking ham.
okay.
All right, now it's a whose is bigger.
For God's sake.
All right, girls. You're both pretty. Stop showing us your
Size of my arm.
Indeed. Thanks, Ric Flair. All right.
Holding the apple.
You want to touch it, Mark?
Not while the camera's on. My kids might see this.
God.
Sean Edwards.
Putting mine away now.
Sean Edwards of Fox 4 Kansas City.
This is almost the size of Brock Lesnar's tattoo.
That's what she said. Michael Myers isn't Michael Myers isn't exhausted yet. 1 out of 5 stars.
No, but you are, clearly. Why would Michael Myers ever get exhausted?
Yeah, because he's a power walker.
Dude,
He's one of those
if you have-
all walkers that early Sunday
you
morning.
have to respect the cardio.
If got yet sick cardio, he's
Do you have any idea how hard it is to keep up with someone who's running while making it look like you're just walking?
So I love this next one.
I understood that reference.
I'm gonna have to read this one more often, Robert. This has become my new favorite place to read reviews from. Envy Moorhead of Less Hat Moorhead.
Ass
Eh? Less Hat Moorhead. Do you get it?
You're fired for a third time, Robert or Mark.
If there's something this guy's not getting, it's more head.
Something really interesting could have been done with all this, but the whole movie is muddled and slow and clumsily structured, and very much unlike the original. It falls back on gore. I wish there had been more gore, not the amount they show you here.
Yeah.
Not wrong.
Yeah, ultimately, that's a fairly accurate review, all things considered. So, good on you, sir. Hopefully, you can find a employer so you don't have to work for yourself, you loser.
John Urban's. That's a running gag here. Ben, you're gonna have to do more of these to know the special love language that Robert and I speak to each other. John Urbansich of J Movies with a U. It's movies with a U, Robert.
You jerk.
Sorry. This is the best part of the show. Hey, I meant to say this before. This segment of the show was brought to you by Grammarly. Fuck.
Hang on. Grammarly would not have let this idiot spell movies with a U.
Grammarly's AI-powered products help people communicate more effectively. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Facebook, Gmail, Twitter, LinkedIn, and nearly everywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, and spelling mistakes while also catching contextual errors.
I know.
There we go.
Everywhere else you write on the web, Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, and spelling mistakes while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. To download Grammarly today, go to getgrammarly.com/W2M Network. Again, it's getgrammarly.com/W2M Network to download Grammarly for free.
And spell movies without a U.
Anyway, back to J Movies with a U. Very early in this inconceivable
Keep
12
using that word.
buckling film adventure of Boogeyman Michael Myers, a character actually says he needs to die. Thank goodness the franchise agrees, since The Ends is due in 2022.
Guess what? Look, I hate to tell you how these things go, buddy, but since you appear to be new to not only the film review game, but understanding how IPs work in 2021 in the Hollywood scene, you're getting a reboot 2 years later, and you're gonna like it.
Trace Thurman of Horror Queers Podcast. Why is Horror Queers Podcast
The
on here
fuck?
and we're not? What the fuck is that all about? No, wait, I don't care about like that a podcast is on here. I want to know why theirs is and ours isn't. Like, that's not fair.
You want to
I
know
demand
why?
representation.
Mark, do you
Why?
really want to know why? Because I can tell you why.
Because they have listeners.
Yes. Audience size.
It's not the size that matters. Moving on.
It's not
Hey,
all about
Colossus-
the size.
Thank you, Jason. She said, "A
Oh,
colossal."
hang on. I have visual aids for this because I've got this.
Keep your
Hang on.
pants on. I can't tell you this every podcast.
Have
Keep
this.
your pants on.
See, look.
All
I
right.
have a
got
paring
it.
knife. I actually made this one.
Me
And
and
bow
Robert
knife.
have never had a chance to compare knife collections, so you know.
This might be the longest we've ever discussed anything but the film.
So no. Mark, how long did we spend talking the lineage of Captain America's shield? And
That
then
was
the
a
chain of
TV show.
custody?
That was different. And that
Sure.
somewhat had to do with the show. Not you guys pulling out your knives going, mine's bigger. A colossal disappointment. Speaking of bigger knives, that
I'm
barely
small
qualifies.
hooked.
That qualifies as a movie. The kills are great, but there's just not much else here. What a waste.
Much like every bit of time you spent reviewing this film, I suppose.
Peter something Polish of efilmcritic.com.
Why's it got to be Polish?
If that's not Polish,
Peter
I'll
the
eat my hat.
Polak.
That's racist.
For the record, I tend to agree with Mark. That's very Eastern European, if nothing else, but not Russian.
While I cannot say that this is the worst Halloween film in the world where the
not.
Rob Zombie versions are allowed to exist.
Guy, okay, hang on, stop, just for 1 second.
Yes.
You people complaining about the Rob Zombie movies, I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm saying some of you never saw Halloween 5, which is so bad it's in the public domain. I'm not kidding about that.
Okay. Peter something Polish of efilmcritic.com. While I cannot say that it is the worst Halloween film in a world where the Rob Zombie versions are allowed to exist, but an excellent case could be made that this utterly pointless exercise in tedium is the worst of the ones featuring Jamie Lee Curtis.
No, because I saw Michael Myers and Busta Rhymes, sir.
Yeah, Halloween Resurrection makes all arguments irrelevant.
It
Happy
really
Halloween,
does.
motherfucker!
It really does. It's so bad.
Yeah.
Tim Brennan about Boulder. Green's film was shot in the autumn of 2019, so he couldn't have been influenced by the rampant stupidity we all experienced during the 2020 pandemic. Yet he captured the chaos and selfishness surrounding people who were dealing with a problem poorly.
That's a poorly constructed paragraph, is what that is. You haven't quite established whether or not the poorly there is discussing
Grammarly
how
would have
he
helped that.
really would have, buddy. We're offering you need our service.
Eric
That's what we should
Childress
do.
of
We should just
eFilm.
find these people and just like tweet them the Grammarly link.
And yell "Evil dies tonight" on their
No,
lawn.
no. Just tweet
Yeah.
them the Grammarly link.
Eric Childress of efilmcritic.com. It is stunning how the people who purport to be fans of the original and then get to make new ones don't understand how the stuff of nightmares is the stalk and the chase, not the kill. Plus, horror blowing social commentary this badly is embarrassing.
He's not wrong about pretty much any of that. Michael Myers is at his best when he's in the back, for the setup when he's in the background. That's true. And I wouldn't say this one completely blows its social commentary the way other horror films of the last 3 to 5 years have. Not going to name names. Here's some of them we've reviewed.
That seemed like a blanket statement, though, and George Romero would have issue with that if indeed it was.
If he's talking horror from all time, then yeah, Romero's commentary at times.
No, well, at times George Romero was the patron saint of of social commentary and horror, and in other instances he was the scourge of social commentary and horror movies.
Yeah.
So,
I'm going to read two more here, and I'm going to call it a night. Chris Evangelista of Slash Film. Halloween Kills perhaps wants to be the Empire Strikes Back of this trilogy, the darker middle entry that keeps things open-ended for the big dramatic conclusion. That's fine in theory, but ampersand, and then it cuts off.
That's an ellipsis, not an ampersand. First
Ellipses,
of all,
correct. Yeah, sorry.
I had to think,
you're shilling Grammarly. You should know the punctuation marks, if nothing else.
So it ends.
True.
So it ends in 3 question marks and an exclamation point. Move on.
I did have an Empire Strikes Back reference that I was gonna make about this because, Halloween Kills, its biggest saving grace and its biggest detriment is probably going to end up being that it's the middle part of the trilogy. And I know they were going for Empire Strikes Back, but they fell somewhere a little bit closer to Matrix Reloaded.
Accurate.
Yeah.
Matthew Bond of the Mail on Sunday, UK.
Or Zombies 2.
Not so much.
Damn it, Teasley.
Not so much trick or
you're not
treat.
Not even
You're not
touched
wrong.
that.
You're not wrong, man.
Not so much trick or treat, just terrible. That's not a very helpful review.
It's really not.
I haven't read any of the top critics.
Trick
Here's
or
one.
treat, motherfucker.
Roxana Haddadi.
They stayed away.
They fly over. Fox 10 Phoenix, top critic, Red Star. A repetitive, blood-soaked slog. Halloween Kills offers a few ingeniously gross moments, but otherwise is more mind-numbing than hair-raising.
Not entirely unfair.
Mm.
I wouldn't. You know what? Hang on. I actually might take a little bit of issue with that. I don't know what in this movie would have necessarily qualified as mind-numbing. It's not all great, but I think if this movie were 20 minutes longer, like then you could make the case that it genuinely numbed the brain.
Hey, this is a good one. Rob Rector of Film Threat. Just who is this film for?
Well, any of the millions of people that saw it, apparently, you douchebag.
Well,
look, man, I'm part gorehound. It's in my DNA. There's clearly an audience for this. That should not be the question that you ask of a Halloween movie. Like, if you're asking who is this for, you are the one wildly out of touch with reality, sir.
It didn't check every box, but it checked a few of them.
Yeah,
right. So Ben, I don't know if you've ever been on a Damn You Hollywood before, but part of the reason we do this bit is because I want to see if I can cause Robert to have an aneurysm, just completely stroke out on the podcast. It's happened once or twice. This is a man who is the kind of like my doppelganger in the sense that, like, while I freely curse and make an art out of it, Robert will refrain from cursing because he wants to go to heaven. But occasionally, I drive him to the point of madness, and out comes a fuck bomb that is so glorious my pants shoot off and liquid goes everywhere. So, with that said,
I don't think this particular movie is going to engender that much.
The point is to read the reviews that drive him over the edge, and I think
that
I found
either.
one.
These are some tepid review. Yeah, okay, you got one. Let's hear it.
You find the one who complains that this movie's too nihilistic, and we might be getting there.
Walter Shaw, Decider. Green's Halloween Kills is grim to the point of nihilistic. It's ugly, sadistic, mean. There's not a thing that's conventionally enjoyable about it. I don't even have to keep that open anymore. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the show.
I'm just going to say, once again, you people didn't even take Philosophy 101. If you think that this movie is grim to the point of nihilism, that could describe a lot of it. That could describe the American remake of Funny Games. Like that's can describe the original Funny Games.
Which was a shot for shot. The American remake was shot for shot from the same director, and they both made me want to throw a shoe at the TV. So.
I mean, yeah. Look, if this guy wants to experience nihilistic filmmaking, there's some. You mentioned Funny Games.
Yeah.
There's the one starring Michael Fassbender. What was it, Eden Lake? That I think kind of gets towards that point by the end of it. What was it, Strangers? The Liv Tyler one. There's a bunch of these that just
Prisoners with Hugh Jackman. Is that Hugh Jackman?
Yeah, Hugh Jackman, Jake Gyllenhaal. They're both in it.
Right.
What's the Okay, well, I mean, speaking of Gyllenhaal, Nightcrawler is one of the most
Yeah, it is.
self-indulgently nihilistic films that exist because of what it talks about as far as the state of humanity.
Yeah, it is.
If you want something that more deals with the kind of existential nihilism, might I recommend the French film Martyrs, which ends
Oh,
on
God.
which ends on the most horrifying
Oh, God.
note.
All right, Jason, go ahead and plug your fantasy football podcast, and then we'll start wrapping up.
All right, it's Second and Short. You can find it on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Tyler's got it everywhere, just about. And if anybody actually listens to this, which there's a few of you, and you have a significant other, definitely check out my wife's podcast. Outside of anybody that's on this show, if anybody else listens, you have a significant other, you can check out my wife's podcast, and I'll plug that for her, because if not, then she won't let me spend $400 on a video game cabinet to put in my office. I said I'd plug it. I didn't say I'd give it the fucking name on the show.
All right, the next time you'll
allow me to help you out. Then I believe it's home is where the Hallmark is.
Yeah, it's home is
Something
where the
along those
Hallmark
lines.
is, which I came up with that name, and I never got credited for it. They can kiss my ass.
All right, so
It's
Jason
on the
has
Chair
been
Shot It's on the Chair Shot Network.
Jason has been wanting me to watch the show You, which is either just starting or is about to start its third season.
It dropped. Its third season dropped the other day on Netflix.
So we're going to start with season 1. We're going to do 3 shows, 1 season apiece, hopefully before season 4 comes out. The first season of You that myself and Jason are going to be reviewing will be Friday night when I get home from last night in Soho, and that'll be the 29th of October, and that'll air overnight on October 30th. And then and about a month after that, we'll do season 2, and then in March, because fucking January and February is so packed. I was kind of glad Doctor Strange moved, because it actually opened up my schedule a little bit. We'll go. You'll get the remainder of that. So I'm excited. Jason's really passionate about this show. I'm excited to talk to him about it, and he'll also be on the next Damn Good Hollywood. I think he'll be on will be the review of Resident Evil.
Raccoon City. Yeah, Raccoon City.
That's the one.
That's the next time.
All right.
I think that's the next one I'm on.
Yeah. All righty, Benjamin J. Cologne and all the things. What do you do? What do you do with all your things?
Yeah, as I had the presence of mind to do on this podcast that I didn't have a chance to do on the previous one was put my my contact info there. Yeah, I am Epic Benjamin J on all of the things. That includes Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, and Discord, where you can intermittently find me posting my various bits of artwork. I'm trying to get back on a regular schedule with Twitch, but I'm also trying to reconcile that with having a 40-hour a week day job, which is not easy. We'll see what happens when after this weekend and some personal commitments clear up, and we'll see if I can get back on some kind of semblance of a regular schedule. In the meantime, also, related to Radulich and Broadcasting Network, we have at least one other podcast that's already in the can from a couple of weeks ago that I recorded. It's Source Material with Jesse Starcher. We talked about Spider-Verse, which is the all-encompassing Spider-Man massive crossover series that inspired, in part, the movie Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, where you can see me where you can at least hear me downing a few more of these to the point of near incoherence. And I'm going to take this opportunity also. I had a shot reserved from for earlier that I didn't get a chance to consume. This is a Chicago shot glass, which is as close to Haddonfield, Illinois as I have in my possession. I'm going to consume it right now, and encourage all of you to follow me on all of the social medias. So here's to you.
Making the most of our video platform.
I'm a ham.
we're gonna do this triple feature, Ben. I'm now committed to this. I don't know when we're gonna do it because I'm like overscheduled for the next 3 months, but me and you are gonna talk Titan, the Counselor, and what was the third the John Carpenter one?
Christine.
You settle on
Christine.
What did I drunkenly talk myself into? I'm not even going to remember 2 months from now.
That's okay. That'll be about when I schedule it.
And for the record, Christine is based on not the worst Stephen King book. It's pretty good,
and it's a damn good adaptation.
One of the ones that gets kind of forgotten a little bit is because
unfortunately forgotten.
Yeah,
I don't know if you're into Guillermo del Toro and all, but we're going to be in.
I am.
We're going to review Nightmare Alley. If you're up for that one, just let me know.
I might. I have seen every single Guillermo del Toro movie since Blade 2 in the theater. He is one of my favorite filmmakers of all time.
So, yeah, if you're up for that, let me know when it gets a little bit closer, and we'll get you in there. In the meantime, this week we re-aired our Peanuts review to coincide with the release of Raw Has Gone Wrong by kind of the same distributor studio, et cetera, et cetera. Myself and Dave Wright reviewed the 1984 Dune movie. We had a fun hour talking about that. This morning, we re-aired the conversation Gavin and I had about the Mummy trilogy with Brendan Fraser. Tomorrow, we will be doing our Mania of WrestleMania show, this time focusing on 8 and 9. The Rise and Fall of Ric Flair, as I'm subtitling it, in the WWF. And then in the evening time, in between time, myself, Jesse Starcher, and Robert Cooper will be reviewing.
I have a bad joke I could make. I'm not going to make it.
Ice 9 Kills, The Silver Scream 2, Welcome to Horrorwood.
Oh, wait.
And then Thursday, continuing talking with Pat, we are getting into the fights now. The Four Kings of Boxing, Chapter 5, Leonard and Duran 1 and 2. Friday, we have re-airings of Cradle of Filth, Hammer of the Witches, and that's to coincide with the release of Cradle of Filth, Existence is Futile. And I think I scheduled a a Dream Theater review that Robert Cooper did on one of my hiatuses back, I think, around the time that my son was born, which would have been 2014. And that's with actually Sean Garmer from Video Games to the Max, Doctor to the Max, and whatever else he's doing. So that's a blast from the past. I think both of those are going up this Friday. I know the Cradle of Filth one is. And then on Saturday, we start kicking off our march towards the new Paranormal Activity movie. We are re-airing the first, our review of the first two movies on Saturday, and then the Paranormal Activity 3 and 4 on Sunday. Myself and Ronnie Adams are going to review The Last Duel. We'll have a review of Crown Jewel 2021 on Monday, and then myself and Sean Comer will be celebrating the 20-year anniversary of Donnie Darko by putting that on trial.
Guilty.
Certainly Sean thinks so.
Leave my childhood alone.
Take off the rose-colored nostalgia glasses. That's all I ask.
Myself, David Wright, who has committed to all the things Dune, and Jeff Sloboda of the MCU Bleeding Edge, and of course myself and Robert Winfree will be reviewing Dune 2021. The 27th is our review of Halloween's self-titled new album, Halloween. And continuing, hey, Robert, remember when we did a split 7-inch, me and you? We did a split 7-inch of Gem and the Holograms.
I do.
And Paranormal Activity, The Ghost Dimension. Well, I'm re-airing that on Thursday the 28th. And in the evening time, Gavin Napier will be back.
That required some interesting machinations on my part, because if you'll recall about that particular Paranormal Activity, it was in the midst of a conflict between that particular distribution network and pretty much every theater chain known to man. I literally could not find a showing within a 90-minute drive of where I live.
I'm sure we talked about that, and you'll hear all about it Thursday the 28th. In the evening, myself and Gavin Napier will be reviewing Ted Lasso Season 2. And then on Friday, we'll have a triple feature of Scooby Meets Courage, Muppets Haunted Mansion, and My Little Pony, The Next Generation, Rah Rah, We're an Angry Mob. That's Cornel Macabre. His name is Rob.
Well, two of those sound okay.
the aforementioned You season 1, and then our trip of trivia on horror movies will be Saturday, October 30th. Oh, real quick. Sorry, I forgot to mention this. In theory, we have a new member of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. And if it all works out according to plan, he and I will be doing a live stream review coverage of Jamel Herring versus Shakur Stevenson. But if he drops out, I'm going to Shanghai Robert into it.
What day is this?
Saturday.
What time?
The broadcast on ESPN doesn't even get started till 10 o'clock at night.
10 o'clock your time?
Oh, yes. Whitechapel does have a new album coming out. We cannot get it on the schedule, but yes, I am aware of Whitechapel's new album. Okay, as for your question relative to the conversation at hand, it's the 23rd. It's the same. Your Costa versus Vettori fight will be long over by then. It starts at 4 and ends at 6.
What the UFC card is okay. So they're the main card starts at 4.
Yes, that's what it says on my calendar here. Stop arguing with me about it. It starts at 4. It ends at 6. It gives you plenty of time to do all the things.
No, that doesn't give me time.
Anyway, for my needs, it gives you all the time. So if he bombs on me and fails out, I'm going to Shanghai Robert into covering Jamel Herring versus Shakur Stevenson on ESPN.
Yeah.
Live stream. Yay.
I'm sure I can. You know what? I can't sell that. I can't even pretend loosely to care enough about Shakur Stevenson to. Yay! I'm a defensive quasi savant, and I've clearly got pound for pound potential, but you don't hit very hard, and your personality is a really sad mix of Floyd Mayweather and Gervonta Davis. So good luck with that.
I almost put a bet on him to win the fight, but his odds are like such that if you bet $100, you only make 10, which makes no sense to me.
Boxing odds tend to be very, very wide like that. It's not a full setup fight for Stevenson, but it's pretty close.
All right, do your plugs real quick. We are at the 2-hour mark.
All right. Let's see. This last week, I did my usual stuff. I cover professional wrestling a few days a week over at 411mania.com, AW's Dark Elevation on Monday, MLW's Fusion Alpha on Wednesdays, and WWE SmackDown on Fridays. I will be covering Monday Night Raw this next Monday. The regular guy had some kind of technological issue. I almost got it. They asked me to do it yesterday, but sadly I couldn't make that work. But I can for the next week, so you'll get me on Monday. I'll have to watch a 3-hour Raw, but fortunately it won't be a 3-hour Raw with Charlotte Flair. Unfortunately, Charlotte Flair is now on SmackDown, so I have to see her horse face every week. Her horse face and Sasha Banks' hydrocephalic head are just going to collide in the worst ways possible. So, you can look forward to all of that. If you're interested in my take on professional wrestling, you can follow those. Again, they're over at 411mania.com. I host the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast on Sundays if you're so interested in that sport. And I cover UFC events for 411 Mania in the MMA zone. This last week, we had a pretty terrible card that had a lot of terrible fights, including one of the worst fights of the year. I could out you to all of our audio listeners right now, but I won't. This coming week, we'll have, as Mark mentioned, Paulo Costa and Marvin Vettori in the main event. Should be a good fight, and apparently it's a slightly earlier card. So I'll be over there. Please do come by, have a listen, follow along if you're interested in the sport. I appreciate it. Damn you, Hollywood, for Dune next week, and I hope you'll all be back for that, because I will. I'll be here. It's one of the things I do. It's one of the things Mark does, too, on occasion, when he feels like it. Much like his terrible, terrible intro bits for me that you did an Eminem song last week.
You done now?
Yes, I'm done. So thank you again, everyone for listening. Look, let me do the outro this time. Why not? Thank you, sir. So, all of you, thank you for listening. Please interact with the product a little bit. Like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend, share on whatever social media platforms you prefer. If you're watching on Twitch, we do these live there, as well as a few other live stream locations. On Twitch, please follow us. Follows are free. There's a little heart in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Give it a click. Follow us. That'll give you notifications about when we go live, and you can help us build what we're trying to build here. Get all of our notifications for all the stuff that goes live over here. And if you want Mark's schedule on occasion when he remembers to post it, the Radulich and Broadcasting Network Facebook page, you can give that a like as well. All of that helps us out a whole lot. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, give us a written review, please. Mark still has a terrible review that he would like to be cycled out. And there's a quick look for all of our video friends at the schedule. This is our lives. It's what it looks like. And you wonder why we can't get new people in. So please, that helps us all out. We appreciate it very much. Thank you all very much. Until next time, on behalf of Jason Teasley, Benjamin J. Cologne, and Mark Radulich, I'm Robert Winfree. Please continue to be well, be safe, and behave.